Hello everyone, it's Naomi. Today, I want to take you on a journey into the heart of Bangkok, a city that never ceases to amaze me with its vibrant energy and beautiful traditions. As I walk through the streets of this bustling city, I often find myself captivated by the women here. They carry a sense of grace and strength that reflects both the modernity and the deep-rooted culture of Thailand. What I find most fascinating is how these women balance their busy lives while staying connected to their heritage. In each woman I meet, I see a reflection of Bangkok itself, ever-changing, yet deeply tied to its traditions. Today I want to share with you the stories of some remarkable women I've met here in Bangkok. Stories of pride, family, love, and their dreams for the future. Walking through Bangkok, it's impossible not to be captivated by the women who bring life to the city. From the early morning markets to the peaceful evening parks, they seem to carry the essence of both modernity and tradition within them. What stands out to me is their effortless ability to navigate both worlds, balancing the demands of a fast-paced urban life while still holding close to their cultural roots. In the markets, I see women proudly running their family businesses, some of which have been passed down through generations. These women carry themselves with a quiet strength, their hands skillfully arranging goods, their faces reflecting a deep sense of pride in their heritage. It made me realize how central family is to the lives of many women here. In Bangkok, family plays an important role in shaping the lives of these women. What strikes me most about the women of Bangkok is their unwavering connection to family. Despite living in a fast-paced, modern world, many of them remain deeply rooted in their familial traditions. It's as if their family history guides them through the chaos of everyday life. One afternoon, I visited a family-run shop at a local market where I met a woman named Amara. As I walk through the streets of Bangkok, I can feel the pulse of the city, carried by the women who fill it with life. The morning air is thick with the scent of fresh herbs from the markets, and the sound of vendors calling out blends into the background as women skillfully tend to their stalls. I watch them, their hands moving with grace, arranging goods with precision. Each movement speaks of experience, of pride. It's a quiet strength that radiates from them, like the steady rhythm of the city itself, unseen but always present. In these moments, I realize that the women of Bangkok are not just navigating their daily lives, they are the heartbeat of this city. Their stories are woven into the very fabric of Bangkok's identity. As the sun sets and the streets begin to quiet down, I often find myself in parks or cafes where groups of women gather. Their laughter fills the air, light and free, as they share stories of their day, their families, their hopes for the future. It's a moment of connection, not just with each other, but with the city around them. The scent of jasmine tea lingers in the air, and the soft glow of streetlights casts long shadows, adding a touch of warmth to the cool evening breeze. In these moments, I can feel the delicate balance that these women maintain between their modern lives and their cultural roots. Their grace, their strength, it's all part of what makes Bangkok the city it is. The deeper I immerse myself in the lives of Bangkok's women, the more I understand how integral family is to their identity. The scent of incense often drifts through the air, a reminder of the prayers offered for ancestors and the legacy that each family carries. As I spent more time in Bangkok, I began to notice that love here takes many forms, shaped by tradition, but also evolving with the times. It's not just about relationships between men and women. There's a quiet but growing acceptance of love that transcends gender. This was something I felt deeply when I met a woman named Pim at a small cafe near the Chao Phraya River. The cafe was quiet, with the soft hum of conversations blending with the gentle clinking of cups. As soon as I saw her, there was something about her that drew me in, the calm confidence in her posture, the warmth in her smile. She was an artist, she told me, as we sipped our tea, creating vibrant murals that depicted not just the beauty of Thailand, but the struggles of those whose love was often hidden in the shadows. I was captivated by the way she spoke about love, not as something confined by expectations, but as something boundless, fluid, and personal. As she spoke, the scent of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, and the sun cast a soft glow through the windows, adding an almost dreamlike quality to the moment. Her words lingered in the air long after, as if they were meant for me, reaching deeper than I expected. We talked about many things: her art, the changing attitudes toward LGBT relationships in Thailand, and how love, for her, had always been about freedom. There was something in her presence, something that stirred within me, a feeling I hadn't anticipated but couldn't ignore. As the evening approached and the cafe's soft lights dimmed, I found myself lingering in her gaze longer than usual, feeling a connection I couldn't quite explain. I had come to Bangkok searching for stories, but in that moment it felt like I had found a part of my own story. The air between us felt charged with something unspoken, and I realized that this was more than just a casual meeting. It was the beginning of something I wasn't yet sure how to define. Pim's story, her courage to live openly as herself in a society that is still learning to accept such love, stayed with me long after we parted that night. As I walked back to my hotel, the cool breeze brushing against my skin, I couldn't help but wonder, was this love? Or was it something even more profound, something that went beyond the labels we usually assign to relationships? The next morning, I found myself standing at the entrance of the same cafe by the Chao Phraya River, my heart racing. The soft murmur of conversations and the familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee drifted through the open door, drawing me inside. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find. Maybe I was looking for clarity, maybe just another conversation with Pim to understand what I had felt the night before. The cafe had a warm, inviting atmosphere, small wooden tables scattered under soft lighting, and a few patrons absorbed in their morning rituals. The air was thick, with the scent of roasted beans and a faint sweetness from the pastries displayed at the counter. As my eyes scanned the room, I saw her. Pim was sitting by the window, bathed in the soft golden light of the morning sun. Her long dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, catching the light in a way that made it shimmer with a soft glow. She wore a simple white linen dress, its fabric flowing lightly with her every movement, as if the morning breeze itself had chosen to dance with her. The scent of jasmine seemed to linger in the air around her, mingling with the rich aroma of coffee. For a moment I just stood there, watching her. She seemed at ease, almost as if the world outside didn't exist for her. Finally, I took a deep breath and walked over to her. She looked up as I approached, her eyes soft and welcoming, a slight smile playing on her lips. "Good morning, Naomi," she said, her voice as soothing as the gentle rustle of leaves outside. The way she said my name sent a warmth through me, as if she had known me for years. I sat down, feeling the soft cushion of the chair beneath me, trying to steady the excitement that bubbled within. For a few moments, we simply looked at each other, the quiet hum of the cafe filling the space between us. "I wanted to see you again," I finally said, my voice a little more breathless than I'd hoped. Pim's smile widened, her eyes sparkling with understanding. "I'm glad you came," she replied, her voice warm and inviting. The scent of her jasmine perfume mixed with the earthy aroma of coffee, creating an intoxicating blend that made it hard to focus on anything else. As the sunlight danced through the leaves outside, casting soft shadows across the cafe, I felt something shift between us, something unspoken but undeniably real. "I was wondering, would you like to have lunch with me today?" I asked, my heart racing, unsure of how she might respond. Pim tilted her head slightly, a curious smile playing on her lips. "I'd love to," she said, her voice soft, yet filled with something more. A quiet anticipation that sent a shiver through me. As we left the cafe together, the world outside seemed to blur, leaving only the warmth of Pim's presence beside me. As we sat down for lunch at a quiet restaurant tucked away in one of Bangkok's hidden streets, the air felt thick with unspoken tension. The atmosphere around us was serene, the distant hum of the city muted, leaving only the soft clink of silverware and the murmur of nearby conversations. I couldn't help but watch Pim as she sat across from me, her movements graceful yet grounded, as if she were entirely present in each moment. The way her fingers lightly grazed the rim of her glass, the soft curve of her lips as she smiled. Everything about her seemed deliberate, yet effortless. I tried to focus on the food in front of me, the scent of fresh herbs and lime rising from the dishes, the vibrant colors of Thai spices. But my mind kept drifting back to her. Every time Pim looked up, her eyes met mine, and there was something in that gaze, a softness, an openness, that made my heart ache. It wasn't just her beauty, though that was undeniable. It was the way she carried herself, with a quiet confidence that seemed to seep into the very air around us. I felt as if I were seeing her through new eyes, noticing the small things, the way her lips parted ever so slightly when she was about to speak, the way her fingers danced subtly as she gestured. Every detail seemed amplified in my mind, each one pulling me deeper into this connection I couldn't quite name. And yet, as I sat there, feeling this undeniable pull toward her, a part of me hesitated. Was this real, or was it something I had created in my mind, a desire for connection in a foreign city where everything seemed new and exciting? I couldn't deny that my heart had raced the moment I saw her again, that every word she spoke seemed to wrap itself around me, pulling me closer. But there was also fear of what this might mean, of what I might feel if I allowed myself to fall. Pim's laughter broke through my thoughts, light and melodic, pulling me back to the present. I watched her as she smiled, her eyes crinkling slightly at the corners, and I wondered what she was thinking. Could she sense my hesitation? Did she feel the same pull I did? The way her hands moved gracefully, her fingers brushing against the table, her gestures so fluid, it was as if she existed in a world just slightly out of reach, a world I wasn't sure I belonged to. And yet, here she was, sitting across from me, smiling at me, inviting me into her world without a single word. As we continued to talk, my heart felt heavy with the weight of my emotions, and I realized that no matter what happened, I couldn't ignore what was growing between us. This wasn't just a moment of connection, it was something deeper, something that scared me as much as it excited me. As I looked into her eyes, I knew that whatever this was, I had to let myself feel it, to let myself fall. As I sat across from Pim, watching her effortlessly navigate the conversation with her calm confidence, I felt something shift inside me, a pull I had never quite experienced before. Bangkok, a city that pulses with life and energy, has long been a place of contrasts. It's a city where ancient temples stand next to modern skyscrapers, where tradition blends seamlessly with progress, and where love, no matter its form, is starting to be celebrated openly. I had heard about Bangkok's reputation as one of the most LGBT-friendly cities in Asia. But until now, it had been something abstract, something I understood only from a distance. Sitting here, across from Pim, I could feel that abstract understanding becoming something real. Bangkok wasn't just a backdrop to our conversation, it was part of what allowed this moment to happen. In a city where love and identity are beginning to be embraced in all their forms, I started to wonder if that acceptance was working its way into me too. As Pim talked, I found myself more aware of my body, the way my heart raced whenever her eyes met mine, the heat that rose in my chest when her fingers brushed against the table, the slight tension in my shoulders as I tried to keep my composure. My body seemed to be reacting before my mind could make sense of what was happening. Bangkok is a place where freedom feels palpable, where people live authentically, and where there's space to explore who you truly are. As I sat there, I couldn't help but wonder if I was being swept up in that sense of freedom. If being in this city, with its vibrant LGBT community, was making it easier for me to embrace something I had kept hidden. I could feel my heart beat faster, not just because of Pim's presence, but because of what this moment symbolized. I had always thought of myself as someone who understood love, but this was different. It felt like I was standing on the edge of something, staring into a new part of myself that I had never acknowledged before. Pim's laughter broke through my thoughts again, light and effortless, but it tugged at something deeper inside me. I watched her as she smiled, her eyes sparkling with a warmth and openness that left me feeling both exhilarated and terrified. Her lips curved softly as she spoke, and I couldn't help but feel a physical pull toward her. The scent of jasmine that surrounded her seemed to mix with the city's heat, intensifying the feeling. Was this Bangkok's influence? Or was this simply me, finally allowing myself to feel something I had never dared to before? The physical sensations were undeniable. The quickened pulse, the slight tremble in my hands, the warmth that spread through my body whenever she looked at me. But it wasn't just physical. There was something in my heart, something that had started to crack open the moment I met her. I wasn't just attracted to her beauty, her grace, or her laughter. I was drawn to her spirit, her freedom, and the way she seemed to live without fear. In Bangkok, a city that encourages self-expression and embraces diversity, I began to feel something stirring inside me. A desire to embrace that same freedom. As I sat across from Pim, I realized that this wasn't just about her. It was about me, about who I could become in this city where anything seemed possible. and with that realization, I knew there was no turning back. After we parted ways, I found myself walking back to my hotel in a daze, the bustling streets of Bangkok blurring around me. The city's energy, the heat, the sound of distant traffic, it all seemed distant, muffled, as if I had been pulled into a world of my own thoughts. I needed to get away from it all, to find a moment of quiet, to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside me. When I finally stepped into the cool, air-conditioned silence of my hotel room, I let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. The room was a stark contrast to the chaos of my mind: neatly made bed, soft lighting, and the faint scent of freshly laundered sheets. I dropped my bag onto the floor and headed straight for the bathroom, my body moving on autopilot, desperate for the grounding feeling of water on my skin. The sound of the water rushing from the shower head was the only thing that seemed real as I stepped inside, the cool tile beneath my feet sending a shiver up my spine. As the warm water cascaded down my body, I closed my eyes, hoping the sensation would wash away the confusion, the lingering heat from my encounter with Pim. But instead, it only seemed to heighten my awareness of my own body. Every drop of water felt magnified, every inch of skin more sensitive than before. My hands instinctively moved over my arms, my chest, my stomach, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I was acutely aware of every curve, every line of my body. I couldn't stop myself from thinking about Pim, her face, her smile, the way her eyes had held mine just a little too long. The water ran down my shoulders, but instead of grounding me, it only fueled the growing desire inside me. I could see her in my mind, the way her hair had glowed in the sunlight, the soft curve of her lips when she smiled, the scent of jasmine that had clung to her skin. I felt my breath hitch as I imagined her body, her hands, her fingers, the way they had moved with such grace and confidence. A rush of heat surged through me, and I pressed my palms against the cool tile wall, trying to steady myself, trying to push the thoughts away. But the more I tried to suppress it, the more the images of her flooded my mind. Her eyes, her lips, her body, the way she had made me feel alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. I could feel my body reacting, my skin tingling, my pulse quickening, the warmth spreading from my chest to my stomach and lower. I tried to push it all away, to remind myself that this was nothing more than a passing attraction, a fleeting moment of desire. But I couldn't ignore the truth. Pim had awakened something in me, something I had never allowed myself to feel, something that scared me as much as it excited me. My breath came in short gasps as I stood there, water dripping down my body, feeling both trapped by my desire and liberated by it. Was this what it meant to truly embrace myself? To let go of the fear? To accept the intensity of what I was feeling, even if it terrified me? I didn't have the answers, but I knew that something had changed in me, something irreversible. I turned off the water, my body trembling slightly as I stepped out of the shower, my reflection staring back at me in the mirror. I didn't look different, but I felt different, like the version of me I had always known was slipping away, replaced by something new, something raw and unfamiliar. And as I stood there staring at my reflection, I knew that I couldn't go back. The night passed in restless silence. Every time I closed my eyes, images of Pim flooded my mind. Her smile, the warmth in her gaze, the way she had made me feel more alive than I had in years. But just as quickly, thoughts of Tokyo crept in, my responsibilities, the life I had worked so hard to build, and the structure that had always kept me grounded. By morning, I had made my decision. The sky outside the window was a soft gray, the early light barely touching the horizon. I stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at my reflection. I wasn't the same person who had arrived in Bangkok a week ago. Something inside me had shifted, cracked open. But even as I stood there, feeling the weight of that change, I knew that I couldn't stay. I had to return to Tokyo, to the life I had built, to the responsibilities I had committed to. But this time, it would be different. I wasn't going back as the same person. Bangkok had changed me. Pim had changed me. I packed my bags slowly, each movement deliberate, as if I were saying goodbye not just to the city, but to a version of myself that I was leaving behind. Before I left, I pulled out my phone and sent Pim a message. "Thank you for everything. I'll never forget this time with you." I hesitated for a moment, wanting to say more, to explain the depth of what I felt, but in the end, I kept it simple. There was no need for grand gestures or long explanations. What we had shared in Bangkok was something that couldn't be captured in words. As I stepped out of the hotel and into the busy morning streets of Bangkok one last time, the city was alive with its usual energy. The hum of motorbikes, the distant call of street vendors, the scent of food being prepared for the day ahead. I took a deep breath, letting the city's pulse fill me one last time. As I made my way to the airport, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness, a sense of loss for what could have been, for the version of me that could have existed in this place, with Pim. But there was also a sense of peace. I wasn't running away from what I had felt, I was carrying it with me, back to Tokyo, back to my life. And as the plane took off, lifting me away from the city that had changed me in ways I still couldn't fully comprehend, I knew that I was leaving, but I wasn't leaving empty-handed. Bangkok and Pim had given me something, a new understanding of myself, of what I wanted, of who I could be. And that was something I would carry with me always, no matter where life took me.